If you guys are trying to get this emblem and get the new Spire the Watcher dungeon solo flawless, I'm going to compile a bunch of tips and tricks that I figured out while doing my runs that'll hopefully help you get this emblem on your first try. This video is specifically about Warlock, just because I like how the damage phases work when you're playing Warlock, so let's get into it. So before we get into any of the tips that I have to solo flawless this dungeon, I first wanted to go over the loadout that I used in order to make this as easy as possible. So first, I was obviously using Well of Radiance because this is incredible for the final boss. It just makes it really easy and makes the rest of it pretty good as well. I'm going to go with Healing Rift because I'm not using Starfire Protocol for the majority of this, and you'll see that later. Burst Glide, just like that. Celestial Fire, so you can get Radiant on targets who are a little bit further away from you, which Incinerator Snap can't. And of course Fusion Nade, because it's the best grenade with Touch of Flame. You definitely need that. I like running Icarus Dash. I think it helps me a lot in the final encounter where there's all the supplicants, but if you're more comfortable with Heat Rises, you can go for that as well. Now for the fragments, Ember of Torches, this is a must for the powered melee to give you increased damage on the boss, the first boss specifically. Ember of Singeing is also really good. Ember of Searing, and Ember of Char. Another thing I did want to point out is I ran 100 Resilience. Until that gets nerfed next season, I think it's going to be the best thing to run in order to get this done, and try to get as much discipline as possible. I had 100, I was lucky, and then after that I would go for Recovery. But for my weapons, pretty much the entire time I would run Wither Horde, except for one part which I'll show you later. The Path of Least Resistance with Volshot is an incredible gun. It kills the eyes really quickly on the first boss, and I have a linear or a trace rifle ammo finder for this. Pretty much I run double special this entire time, just because it gives you a lot of power ammo, and you'll need that for the rest of this. The two guns you want to make sure you have are Bump in the Night with Demolitionist Frenzy. You can also use a Bump in the Night with Demolitionist and Chill Clip. I personally like Frenzy a little bit better though. And then you'll want a linear fusion. I was using Cataclysmic with 4 times the Charm and Bait and Switch, but you can pretty much use anything there. If you wanted to use a Fire and Forget, go for it. Or the Taipan, that works as well. So for my helmet, I think this is super important. On my helmet, I have one Ashes to Assets. That is such an important mod. And then Trace Rifle Ammo Finder, because I find myself running out of ammo with that more than anything else, to be completely honest, with the double special. And then I have Elemental Ordnance here, but because you want this to be a solar helmet, I would put Bountiful Wells on this if you don't want to change all your armor. That's something you can do. For Karnsteins, I just had Bountiful Wells on this one. Like I said, you can switch this out for Elemental Ordnance if you want to. Impact Induction, and a Discipline mod just to round out my stats. Then I also had a Melee Wellmaker on my chest piece, so that every time I would kill something with my powered melee with Karnsteins, I would also get melee energy and just ability energy back in general. And then I also used Well of Life, so every time I got a kill with either my grenade or my melee ability, I would pick up a well, and it would give me short health regen, which is pretty nice in some parts here. In the beginning, I would run Linear Fusion Scavenger, but then when you get to the final boss and you use a rocket, I would switch that over to a rocket Scavenger. You can run Weaken Clear and Solo Operative the whole time, just to make so that you don't have to switch up your armor as much. That's what I did. If you don't want to do that and be a little bit more min-maxy for more stats or something else, go for it. But this is what I did, and it worked completely fine. Now you're going to want 2 additional pieces of armor as well that you can switch to for the final boss fight. I have this armor here is what I would switch to. On my gauntlets, I had a rocket launcher loader. Elemental charge doesn't matter, but I just had the loader to reload my rocket faster. And then on my Starfire protocol, I would just put that on so I could have 2 fusion nades and get them back quicker during damage phase. The stats and mods don't matter too much on this piece, but you just want to make sure that you have a rocket launcher loader on your gauntlets. Now let's talk about the entrance a little bit here. This is probably the quickest part if you follow the exact way that I do it on screen. So I would just go all the way to the back where the first Minotaur spawns. You can kill that with just 1 fusion nade. Just make sure not to kill yourself with the fusion nade. And then I go up to my left first, and I follow the same exact path every single time because I know exactly where all the arc nodes are. You can follow my video here for that path. The reason I picked this one is because it's quick and it's also super safe. You could always melee something with your powered melee, or even double melee a goblin to get health regen back. And there's also a huge pack of goblins when you get down at one point that you can throw a grenade to and get a ton of super back for ashes to assets. And you'll need your super for the next part. If you know how to well skate, it just speeds up that process a little bit there. Really, the biggest tip I can give you for this part is to avoid having the supplicants spawn. The way that you do that is by not shooting the last arc node that would complete one of the paths, so one of the 4 in the middle. In the gameplay, you'll see that I shoot all of those last because, to be honest, supplicants are really the only thing in this entire dungeon that probably will kill you. So I just try to avoid them as much as I possibly can because they have ended a couple of my runs. So I don't like them. I want to stay away from them. Once you get past the entrance, the next thing you have to do is go down this slide. I would be lying if I told you I've never died to this slide. So to avoid dying here, I would just hold out your sword once you get to the bottom and swing to cancel all of your momentum there, just so you can avoid wasting 2 minutes of the entrance and having to restart. But after this, you obviously go to the platforming section. As a Warlock, if you know how to well skate, it literally takes 20 seconds. You get to the spot shown on screen right now, you just well skate completely across. If you do not know how to well skate, don't worry, just run immediately as you get to this part. Nothing would have spawned for a couple seconds, so by the time you get past the dangerous part, they won't even be there yet. So I'll show both ways, the well skating way and the way where you just run straight past everything. They're both pretty safe. This next part, leading up to the first boss, is a lot of the same that we did in the first encounter. Yeah, you're just going to ignore a lot of the ads because they aren't really that scary if you have tier 10 resilience, and you always have the Karnstein powered melee in your back pocket if you ever get low to heal yourself up. So my best advice for this is to follow the path on screen that I have for all 3 levels. It's the quickest, so it won't allow a lot of ads to spawn in order to kill you, which is great. There may be a quicker way to do it, but I also find it is extremely safe. Whenever you run into a big pack of ads, all you have to do is throw a grenade. Pretty much all of them die. Or you could even use your powered melee and it'll kill a couple there too. So the main thing about this encounter is just to keep your health up, focus on shooting the arc nodes, and killing big packs of ads with your grenade whenever you have that up. Personally, I would keep the sword on for this encounter because there's nothing really that big that you have to kill here. You really only have to kill one Minotaur to get an Artrition buff, and you can just use the one buff the entire time. I just keep the sword on so that if for some reason I'm about to fall off the map, I can save myself, and I don't want to restart because I'm already this far in. It really only took like 5 minutes to get here, but it's wasted 5 minutes that you don't want to do. So if you just continue to follow the path on screen that I have for these 3 levels, kill the ads with your grenade or your melee whenever you're low, you should be able to get past this and get to the first boss pretty easily. One thing I did want to point out real quick about if you are using an eager edge sword is to just be careful when you use your eager edge attack, because I have had it put me in a really bad position where I swung and it took me to a Minotaur that was behind me inside like electricity that instantly killed me. So whenever you use your eager edge, if you're using it to get around, just make sure to look up into the sky, because that messes with the tracking of eager edge and it won't bring you completely 180 to hit something else. So that's just something to be mindful of, because that did ruin one of my runs. Alright, so you finally made it to the first boss fight. This one is definitely easier than the final boss, just because there's a lot less that can kill you. There's no supplicants here, and like I said before, those are definitely the scariest thing in this entire dungeon. For this, you will actually want to switch off of your sword, your eager edge sword, and go to a linear. If you do it this way, you can easily 4-phase this boss with one bad damage phase, because I had one bad damage phase in this video. I still easily 4-phased him. You could use Cataclysmic, which is what I use in the gameplay, with bait and switch 4 times the charm. I think that's the best one, but you could also use Taipan, Storm Chaser. Whatever you have that has a good roll works for this. Now, when actually doing the encounter, I suggest doing the same order of arc nodes every single time you do this, just so you can get into a rhythm and get used to where all these arc nodes are. It does make it a lot quicker. Even if you're going out of your way like I do on the 3rd platform, like I don't need to run all the way to get to the last one. I could shoot it from a little further away, but it's just something that I'm used to and more comfortable with, that I know I'll be able to survive if I do it this way. If you want to see my exact pathing, I will play a full cycle of the boss. One thing you will see is after I complete my first platform, I will use my fusion grenade to clear out the harpies on the way to the 2nd platform. The reason I do this is because the harpies are going to be the thing that are damaging you during the damage phase, and if you clear them every time you pass them with a grenade or your melee, you're saving ammo, which is good, and you have less stuff shooting you during the damage phase. So that's why I do it that way. I will always use my melee to kill a harpy leading to the 3rd platform. If there are a lot of harpies there, I will also use some of my trace rifle ammo to do that, just so I'm more safe during damage. And then you will also see me use my grenade going to the 4th and final platform to clear out as many of those harpies, because those ones are the most dangerous, that will be able to do a lot of damage to you while you are in damage phase. Once you finally make it to a damage phase, this is the main reason that I'm using a trace rifle. The trace rifle has a lot of ammo, so it can kind of be used as a primary weapon. You get a lot more heavy drops while you're using double special, so that's great as well. You don't have to worry about not having enough power ammo for when you get into a damage phase, but they really just shoot the eyes out considerably quicker than any SMG or any primary weapon that you could use here. And they have a lot of ammo, so you could use it as a primary, which is great. You want to shoot out the eyes as quickly as you possibly can, because the faster you shoot them out, the more time you have to damage. And I would also tap fire the trace rifle so that you conserve ammo, because if you just hold down the trigger, you're going to be wasting a lot of ammo. After all of the eyes are shot out, the first thing you're going to want to do is shoot your Wither Horde at the center of the boss so that it doesn't miss. I find it more consistent to aim in, because if I didn't aim in and I shot, sometimes it could go straight through the boss. So I try to be as safe as possible with this, because you want your weakened effect here. Then you can switch straight to your linear and shoot once to proc bait and switch. After you shoot once, I would melee. You have to make sure you have your melee up at this point to get the radiant buff, and then unload your entire magazine of Cataclysm 4th times the charm, everything like that. It's the same thing with any other linear fusion as well. Just unload your mag. Once you are completely out of shots in your linear, you're going to want to shoot your Wither Horde again. This will then auto reload your linear. If you are using a Cataclysmic, make sure to use a couple bullets from your trace rifle to proc bait and switch again to get the damage buff from that. If at any point you get low, it's more important to sacrifice some damage to use your well to save yourself and make sure that you don't die. Damage isn't as important because this boss will probably die in 4 phases regardless, so just make sure that you keep yourself alive. If you do manage to save your well, however, till the end of the damage phase, you can actually use this to negate that pushback effect from the boss, which can save your life. If you don't have your well for this pushback, you can always use Icarus Dash to negate this pushback and save your life. From here, you'll just repeat this a few times until he's finally dead, and then we're going on to the next part. At this point, you're going to want to do another loadout change. If you want to make this encounter trivial, make all the ads easy to kill and just blow by this part, I would suggest switching to Trinity Ghoul, just because it is incredible, especially if you have the Catalyst at just clearing out rooms, and there's a lot of ads in here. A couple shots will just completely clear out all the rooms. For your kinetic weapon, you would also just need something that would be able to shoot arc nodes, so I was using an SMG, a kinetic SMG, and then I would also use a rocket launcher here as well. You're going to be using the rocket for the boss fight, so on your boots at this point you can go and change to a rocket launcher scavenger from linear, because you're not going to be using a linear anymore. So easily clear out all the ads with Trinity Ghoul in this part just to get the minnow to spawn, and this will happen on all 3 levels. You just have to kill ads to get the minotaurs to spawn. Once you kill the minnow and you get the Arctrician buff, there's going to be a spot on the first 2 floors where you can see all of the nodes, and I'll show you exactly where they are in the gameplay right now. Now the actual most dangerous part of this encounter is by far the fans that you have to go through in between this 1st and 2nd level and the 2nd and 3rd level. I found an easy way to get past both sets of fans, and luckily for you, if you're watching this video, you're a Warlock. I actually find it the easiest for our class to get past this point without dying, because you can be suspended in the air with glide for so long. So I'm going to show you how to get past the first set of fans right now, and then right after that the second set as well. For these fans, you just want to sprint and do not jump. You're going to want to wait for one of the fan blades to pass before you go. On the first fan, right after you pass it with your head, use your glide to get to the platform that would be to your immediate right. The second one is similar, but this time you're going to want to land in the notch in the wall to be safe. If it kicks you out of the notch, just make sure to use your Icarus dash and hug the wall for safety on this one. The second set is a lot easier. For this one, all you want to do is sprint, don't jump, just like the first one, and you just want to stay in the notches in the wall directly in front of you. And if you do this correctly, you'll get past these fans fine. Now you're at the third and final floor. For this one, just make sure to stay alive. There are the added effect of fanatics here, so just make sure not to get blown up by those. And there's also going to be the Hydra in the middle, so just kill that every time it is up with your rocket launcher and grenade. That should easily kill the Hydra there. Now you're just going to have to kill ads until eventually the minnow spawns and gives you the Arctrician buff. The thing I would do first is try to find the node in the middle where the Hydra spawns, because that one is notoriously the hardest one to get. I would just shoot that one first, and then there is going to be an arc node on all 4 sides in the middle on the wall. Once you get all 5 of those, you can go down to the final boss encounter, and if you want to make it so that you're not going to die from fall damage, just use your super, your well, to get you down quicker and safely. So now you finally made it to the final encounter. So here, the first thing you're going to want to do is switch to a rocket launcher if you haven't already. It should be a rocket launcher with Demolitionist to make this as easy as possible, and Frenzy as well would be optimal. That's why the bump in the night is incredible here, because it is craftable and it does a lot of damage, and it has both those perks available. If you don't have it craftable, a chill clip one would do fine as well, but you do need to have Frenzy just to make this even work in the first place. So the damage phase for Warlock is definitely the easiest out of all the classes, so that is not the hard part of this encounter at all. In my opinion, the hardest part about this encounter is the survivability, since as a Warlock you don't have as much as Hunter with Invis or Titan with Sunspots. So again, we're going to use Karnstein for this. Like I said earlier in the video, the supplicants are the most dangerous part of this encounter by far. It is the only thing that I have ever died to when running this dungeon, so I have a lot of tips around how to avoid deaths from them. So right when you start the encounter, to make the beginning easier, if you see something spawning in the middle, I would shoot your Witherhoard at that, because that is where the supplicants are going to spawn. It will immediately kill all those supplicants if you do this. They do not spawn there every time, but if you do see something spawning there right when you start the encounter, I would definitely do that before you start trying to kill the Hydra. If you are ever getting chased by supplicants, shoot your Witherhoard at the ground beneath you, and if they run into it, they will die if they stay there too long, so they won't be able to explode, or they will just fly away so that they don't die to the Witherhoard damage in general. If you ever kill a supplicant with a powered melee, it will not explode. So this is a good way to get around a supplicant about to explode in your face if you have your powered melee available. And the last thing, it is always better to take it slow. If there are a bunch of supplicants in the middle when you're trying to shoot the 5 red arc nodes, just get a new Arctrician buff, clear them out before you do it, because I have died multiple times just trying to rush it, and if you're at this point, you don't want to die here, because then you have to go 25 minutes to even get back to this point. So those are all the tips around the supplicants. Now, the way that I usually do the arc nodes after the middle 5 red ones, I would always start on the right hand side of the arena when going into the other room. I find these arc nodes are more dangerous, and the boss can actually cover them easier while he's in the second room. So I do them first in order to get them out of the way while the boss is still stuck in the first room and walking in. now let's talk about probably the most important part of this entire encounter, the damage phase. As a Warlock, if you do it perfectly, you can get a 3-phase on this boss pretty easily. I've gotten a 3-phase twice while solo flawlessing, so it is pretty easy. Sometimes you don't even need Frenzy up for all 3 of the damage phases. So what it will look like. Initially, you are going to want to shoot off the head of a goblin so that it continues to shoot and run at you while you are shooting the 5 red arc nodes to initiate damage phase. If you continue to take damage or shoot something, it keeps the frenzy for your rocket launcher procced in the background, so that's why you do this. After those arc nodes open up and you shoot all 5 of them, you would place down your rift, and then you're going to switch to your chest piece, which is Starfire Protocol, and your gauntlets that have a rocket launcher loader. The damage phase should look something like this. You're going to shoot your Wither Horde, you're going to rocket, grenade, rocket, then you're going to reload your rocket and then shoot it again. Then you're going to grenade again, shoot your rocket, take out Wither Horde, and then it should auto reload your rocket. You should shoot that again, your rocket, another grenade, then a rocket, reload your rocket, and then shoot your 7th rocket. If you do it this way, you should get 7 rockets off each time you do this damage phase. One tip I can give you is make sure you're not shooting your rocket near the sword of your well, because if you hit this and you're standing too close to it, it will unfortunately insta-kill you. So try to avoid that. So right after damage phase, this is actually the most scary part of this entire encounter. Supplicants will spawn in the second room that you are not in, and you want to get in there because that is the safe room. Since you do not have your Karnstein armlets on yet, you have to play it super safe here. Usually what I do is I go left, I shoot a Wither Horde at the Hydra, throw a grenade, do the same thing on the right side, and then go in on the right side because the supplicants usually spawn on that left side. Then you can kill everything in that room and switch back to your Karnstein armlets because nothing will go back in that room with you. And that is pretty much it. You're going to repeat this for 3 to 4 phases until this boss is dead. Just play it safe and just pay attention to the supplicants because those are the main thing that are going to kill you in this encounter. If you ever run out of Trace Rifle or Wither Horde ammo, you can switch over to a regular primary, but that probably won't happen to you if you have the Trace Rifle ammo finder on like I did in my build, or if you're going to phase 5 or 6 or anything like that. This is by far the easiest way to solo flawless on Warlock for Season 19 of Destiny 2. If you enjoyed this and want to see more videos like this, I am probably going to make a guide for Hunter as well, because Hunter is my favorite class and I do want to solo it on this character as well. Stay tuned for that. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Good luck with your solo flawless. Let me know in the comments down below if this helps you out, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Have a great rest of your night. Thought we'd leave the city once we'd made it safe.